But the real law of attraction is really about resonance. You evolve yourself. And as you evolve yourself, whatever resonates with that new you comes to you. Hi, everyone. In this closing presentation in AFES, I want to share with you, initially I was thinking I was going to share with you how Mindvalley built a 2 million person email list. But then I thought, look, you guys will figure that out. There are tons of other people who talk about that sort of thing. Instead, I want to share with you something a little bit more personal. I want to share with you how there was a particular period recently where it felt like the entire universe was caving in on me. And almost 3 times in a row, over 3 years, I almost lost the entire business. I've never shared this story publicly, but it was a period of like incredible pain for me between 2013 and 2016. I think there's a value in sharing it here because it makes you understand that all of us are going to go through a lot of shit as we try to build our influence. But secondly, there were some interesting lessons I learned from this period. And I think there's a value in these lessons as well to help you overcome the hurdles. So I'd like to share this story instead. Are you guys cool with that? So we all know what Mindvalley does. We bring together the world's best minds. I'm really proud of the fact that we employ people from 54 different countries right now, that we put on this incredible festivals, that we work from one of the most beautiful office spaces in the world. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the breakdown. And the interesting thing is, this breakdown didn't happen in the early years of Mindvalley. It happened 10 years into running the company. And that is what I find most interesting about it. 10 years into being a CEO, I was fucking failing miserably. And I want to share what happened because it was so dramatic how disaster after disaster after disaster struck. I thought the universe was literally against me. So the story is, I started Mindvalley in 2003 in that little apartment in New York City. So back then, I was teaching meditation in New York. And funny story about that little apartment is, this is Times Square 2003, before Disney moved into Times Square and, and created all of the Disney Broadway shows. So this wasn't Disney Times Square. This was like crack and hookers Times Square. Literally, you would get propositioned walking home almost every single night by a lady on the streets. Before I moved into that apartment, I found out from the landlord that it was a Thai massage parlor, which had been refurbished. And if you lived in Times Square, New York, you know what Thai massage parlor is code word for. So yes, Mindvalley did start in a whorehouse, former whorehouse. Now that is me in 2003 in that apartment. I like this photo because the table and the chair I'm in, I actually salvaged from the streets. My neighbors discarded it. Beautiful thing about New York, it's a very friendly society. Every year when the new IKEA catalog comes out, the wealthier citizens go and buy the latest IKEA furniture. The older IKEA furniture gets left out on the street for people like me to pick up and use. Both of those were furniture I literally found on the street. In fact, that table, I loved that table. I used to work on that table. You could see I barely could afford pants back then. But on that table in the IKEA catalog is actually called the lack table. It's funny. The Swedes at IKEA actually named a table for the mental state of lack you need to work on that $14.95 desk. So that was 2003. Now flash forward, 2013, 10 years ahead. You would think that after a decade, I would have everything figured out, right? Now Mindvalley was doing decent back then in 2013. AFES was running. We had just done our first AFES in Thailand. But this is when I'd say the most difficult years of my life suddenly started popping into existence. So the first thing that happened is that just before Thanksgiving 2013, I found out that my accountant, who had been working with me for 4.5 years, had been stealing from me for 4 years. And she was someone that I completely trusted. She had stolen about $250,000, and all of a sudden I found that my right-hand person had been cheating on me for 4 years to the tune of $250,000. That was devastating. It violated my trust in so many things. But that wasn't the end of it. Just 6 months after that incident, that completely shattered my illusion of like how awesome I was as a CEO and I had everything under control. Mindvalley was working with several different authors, and our biggest client was I won't state the name, but it was responsible for about 20% of our business. It was a meditation company, and we were in partnership with them, and we were the official promoters. And they brought in a CEO, and that CEO knew that our partnership, which had lasted 7 years, was done in a handshake agreement. And he saw the amount of revenue and sales we were bringing into them, and he thought, I want the entire thing. So I got sued by this CEO. And it was a completely frivolous lawsuit, but what had happened was, because I didn't have my shit in order, I hadn't actually signed a contract. So the CEO knew that I didn't have a contract. She knew it was a handshake agreement, and she decided to sue me in the court of Laredo, Texas. Now, Laredo, Texas is a Mexican border town between Texas and Mexico. It has the most corrupt court district in the world. And I knew that she had bribed the judges. I knew because her own family members had leaked that to me. I did not want to get into a frivolous lawsuit and have to travel to Laredo and, face these judges whom I knew were dishonest. And so I gave up a $5 million business. I literally signed it off. We had to lay off 12 employees in Argentina who ran that business. That was devastating. These employees had kids, and our entire Mind Valley Spanish operations, which relied on that business, disappeared. Lost everything. Our Argentinian office had to be shut down. That was incident number 2. Now, to get myself out of that shit, I decided to go to Burning Man with the guy who at that point was my best friend. Went to Burning Man, had a lot of incredible experiences together, really bonded as men, and he then convinced me that he could help me with my web operations. And the way to do that was he was going to take over my merchant account. And to do this, I made another stupid mistake. Because I trusted him so much, because we had done so much drugs together at Burning Man, I gave him access to my bank account. 6 months later, he fled with $150,000. So now my best friend had betrayed me. This actually fucking hurt. I didn't care about the money. I had difficulty trusting male business partners for years after that. It was horrible. Now we come to December 2014. It's now been 1 year of total chaos. And I get a call on December 26th, just after Christmas. I'm in Estonia. And the call is, hey, Vishen, we can't make payroll. Can we, what do we do? We can't afford to pay salaries. So I'm like, I'll sell my car. So now I'm looking at selling my Merce so that I could have some money come in so that I could actually pay my team. And I felt like I was a failure. I never told the team. To this day, most people in Mind Valley never knew this happened. At the last minute, my executive team, they agreed to just not get paid that month so that everybody else could get paid. And God bless them. Like in January, we suddenly had a cash infusion. It was the start of the year. And we were able to pull ourselves out. Again, I thought that was the end. But then in February, my COO, who is now running the company, I found out that he's stealing from us. He saw that the accountant from 1 year ago, she basically just got a slap on the wrist, white collar crime. So he thought, well, I want a piece of that. And before he gets caught, he's stolen away $100,000. Another huge freaking bit of chaos. It gets worse. At this point, we're thinking, okay, we're going to move Mind Valley to a new email marketing platform. It was called Exact Target, incredible platform. We were basically back then, the company was reliant mostly on email. We had close to a 1 million person list, and we moved everyone to Exact Target. And it took us months to make that transfer, right? But as we were making that transfer, Exact Target got acquired by a larger company whose name I'm not allowed to mention, because I'm not about to mention them kindly, and I had to sign a contract. But you can figure it out. And they, as a larger company, and their salespeople basically lied to us. We signed a very strict contract, and when they acquired Exact Target, they didn't get the pipes fitting well. So over the next 1 year, we couldn't understand why our revenue had plummeted. Turned out 40% of our emails were not being delivered. So now, every month, we are losing $100,000 month after month after month. And we had to go through a whole painful process of 1 year wondering why no one is buying from us, why our customers are not there. Turns out 40% of our customers were not getting our emails. Only when we figured it out, we were able to recover. This was 3 years of chaos, 3 years where I couldn't understand why I was struggling so much. In 2015, I actually gave up being a CEO. I'm like, I can't do this. So I stepped down and asked someone else to take over. It didn't save things. Mindvalley continued bleeding money. Now, I just want to do a quick check-in with you. How many of you here have had someone steal from you in the company? Good. I'm so glad I'm not alone. How many of you here have had a massive technological glitch that almost cost you a business? Thank you for not making me feel alone. And how many of you here have had difficulty making payroll for yourself or your team? This happens to all of us. And, you know, the funny thing is, it kind of makes us like cockroaches. I think if you want to be a good entrepreneur, you got to be like a cockroach. You got to be comfortable crawling through a lot of shit and not getting killed. But so I call this the cockroach theory of entrepreneurship. But there's another thing that's really cool about this. And Google illustrated this. Google did a study, and I found this in a page of a book called Exponential Organizations by Salim Ismail. And Google found that its best people were not Ivy League graduates, but rather people who had experienced a big loss in their lives and had emerged from it transformed. According to Google, deep personal loss has resulted in employees who are more humble and open to listening and learning. And I think this actually applies to all of us, not just the people we hire, but when we go through shit, something shifts within us. I believe that the universe is benevolent. And I believe that what we often see as pain or struggle is often the universe's way of waking us up to something that is our true potential or a path that we really need to go on. So let's come back to Michael Beckwith, because he was one of our speakers here at A-Fest. One of the biggest ideas I learned from Beckwith is this concept called Kensho versus Satori. Kensho, says Michael Beckwith, is growth through pain. Satori, says Michael Beckwith, is growth through insight. So if you accept the mental model that you are a soul having a human experience, and that, to make it fun, the soul forgets that it is truly a soul and puts you in this playground called planet Earth, then every now and then, the soul might need to autocorrect you. And it's going to autocorrect you in one of two ways. Kensho is autocorrection through pain. You're not listening. You're stubborn. So the soul is like, okay, I'm going to smack you at the back of your head till you wake up. That is growth through pain. But there's also growth through insight. And insight is when you are listening. Insight is when you go through introspection. Insight is when you meditate. Insight is when you learn to listen to your heart or intuition. And insight is what you call a Satori moment. It's growth through awakening. So I wrote about this idea in my book because it was so insightful. And I drew this little diagram to illustrate what Michael Beckwith said. Okay, you can see Kensho moments, growth through temporary pain. They cause your life to dip. And the dip is painful, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And then there's growth through Satori, or growth through insight. So I found this idea fascinating. The question is, how can we overcome the dips? How can we actually listen to our soul so it doesn't have to kick us on our butt, and instead allow us to grow through introspection, through insight, through awakenings, through eureka moments, through aha moments? That is the question I want to talk about, because this is a much more comfortable way of growth. Wouldn't you agree? It doesn't require someone to steal from you. It doesn't require business failure. It doesn't require ExactTarget as an email marketing software to collapse on you. And it allows you to grow in a more peaceful way. Now, to understand how to develop these Satori moments, I realized that one of the best ways to avoid Kensho is to understand the culturescape. The culturescape is a word I coined in my book, and it means the tangled web of beliefs, rituals, ideas that permeate the world. The culturescape is designed for human beings to make sense of a complex world. It tells us how to act, what to do, how to live our lives. It tells us what value systems to have, and it comes from fathers, mothers, teachers, preachers, organized religion, the media, politicians. The funny thing, though, about the culturescape is that while there are rules which are useful, for example, look 2 ways before crossing the street, or do a background check on your accountant before you hire her, it also comes with a lot of bullshit rules, or brules, as I refer to them. Bullshit rules are rules that we adopt to simplify our understanding of the world, but these are rules which are not necessarily true. Now, the question I want to pose for you is, what if, very often, the pain that we experience is our soul telling us that we are following a bullshit rule. And that was my insight. I believe, the more you separate yourself from the culturescape. Now, the culturescape has its purposes, right? You don't want to walk into a conference hall naked because you're a rule breaker. You were thinking about that, weren't you? But there are rules in the culturescape that make no sense. For example, I recently dropped the title CEO because I found that that was a rule. But the problem with that rule is it required me to operate in a certain way that I felt was out of alignment, and it caused a rift between me and the people I lead that I felt was out of alignment. I decided to remove CEO from my title and just be founder. So, rules often hold us back. And one of the big things I've been exploring in my life over the last 1 year is how many rules can I drop? How many rules no longer make sense to me? And so, I changed the way we ran Mind Valley. I'm shifting the way AFAS functions. Me and Christina had a conscious uncoupling. I'm trying to live life based on my own terms rather than what society says is an acceptable way. So, in 2016, during this moment of great stress, I received an important phone call, and it was from this man, Sri Kumar Rao. He's actually going to be one of our lecturers at Mind Valley University. But what's cool about Sri Kumar is that he is an MBA professor in America. He teaches at Cornell, at Kellogg Business School, at London Business School, but he brings in wisdom from the East into his teachings. So he called me up. He's like, Vishen, I noticed you've been really, really, really under a lot of stress, right? How can I serve you? And I said, and I spilled my heart out to him. I told him everything I was dealing with, and he said, wait. I want to read you a poem. And I'm like, Rao, I don't have time to listen to poetry. Like, I'm fucking drowning here. And he goes, just listen to this poem. Okay, now I want you to listen to this poem. The beautiful thing about poetry is that great poetry is a really unique form of art. There's the scene from Bohemian Rhapsody where somebody asks Freddie Mercury, what do the lyrics of Bohemian Rhapsody mean? And he goes, it means anything the listener wants it to mean. That is the essence of poetry. What you're about to hear is a poem by Rumi, a 13th century Afghan refugee who was fleeing the Mongol invasion. And Rumi wrote some of the most profound works of poetry in the world. This is what Sri Kumar Rao, read to me over the phone that day. When I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of distress and anxiety. But if I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me without any pain. From this, I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me and attracting me. There's a great secret in this for anyone who can grasp it. Let's go back to the first verse. When I run after what I think I want, what is it that you think you want? Often, these are elements of the culturescape, elements of human society that have told you, you need to do this. You need the garage with 2 cars, the 2 kids. You need the title on your business card. You need the bank account with 100 grand in cash. But if you sit in your own place of patience, what I need flows to me and without any pain. Or, in other words, without the Kensho moment. That is growth through pain. Now, when you can learn to get in this state, there's a great secret for anyone who can grasp it. Now, I didn't understand what the hell this poem was about because I was in a different state of mind when Sri Kumar Rao read it to me. But I want you to just reflect on that poem. So if we could just dim the lights and play some Rumi reflection meditation music. I like to give our AV boys a challenge because they are so good at what they do. So I want 13th century Rumi Sufi reflection music now. Meditate on that poem. Close your eyes. Remember, each of you might interpret this in a different way. As you do, I'm going to read it out to you one more time. When I run after what I think I want, my days are a furnace of distress and anxiety. If I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me, and without any pain. From this I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me, and attracting me. There is a great secret in this for anyone who can grasp it. and you may open your eyes. I didn't understand what this poem meant back then, but today I think I do. And again, as your awareness grows, you're going to see more and more and more things into the wisdom of Rumi or any other piece of inspirational poetry you read. What I understood then was that I was operating from the do-be mechanism. The culturescape says, do this to be this. Do the college degree to be that. Do the job promotion to be this. Do the work as the engineer or the doctor, even if it doesn't light you up, to be this. It's the do-be paradigm. What? What I realize is that you got to flip it around. What Rumi was talking about when he said, sit in my own place of patience, is that what I want comes to me. And I understand that what I want wants me too. That is the be-do paradigm. You be and you do. What I believe Rumi was saying, and again, I can't get into the mind of a 13th century Afghan poet, so I only have to assume here. But my interpretation is that what Rumi was really saying is that what you really want wants you too, because what you really want versus what you think you want, what you really want comes from the soul. And what you really want, because your soul is part of this larger universe, it wants you too. And so, don't tune in to the rules of the world that tell you who to be, or what to want, or what to do. Instead, be who you really are. Listen to that soul, and know that what the soul wants, the universe wants you to have. And this is when the magic happens. This was what really shifted my life. So how do you get there? Well, you go deep into identifying your values. I'm going to teach you how to do that in a moment. So what happened was, I happened to get a good teacher. He was a guy by the name of Amir Ahmad. He was actually supposed to be at the SAFES, but he couldn't come. He was supposed to fly in from the Oslo Freedom Forum along with Adam Roa. I was going to bring in Amir to teach you this exercise to have you establish your values, but because Amir couldn't make it, I'm going to run it with you. Now, I did this exercise with Amir at the tail end of 2016, and I understood that I had 4 values, like 4 things that really drove me. The first was very easy, transformation. I believe in personal growth. I believe that personal growth should be the #1 thing. The second was envisioning. I like to create. So whether you're an artist or an engineer like me, envisioning means you see the world as a canvas, and you want to build, you want to create, you want to invent, you want to inspire. It's a beautiful value to have. The third value, though, is unity. Now, all of these fit together. You can be incredible with personal growth. You can be an incredible creator. But if you don't have the value of unity, you can be an asshole, right? We've seen politicians who are incredible at envisioning ideas, but their ideas are about walls rather than compassion. And so you got to have that value of unity as well. And there is a fourth value, and that fourth value is love. And I'll come to what that means. So what happened was, I decided to discard all of the things that I was told to do. And I decided to just operate from the core and live by these 4 values. Now, the beautiful thing about the values I picked is they are fairly generic. How many of you here resonate with the value of transformation? That means you believe that personal growth is really powerful. Awesome. What about envisioning? You believe in creation. Great. What about unity? You see the world as a single unit, as Homo sapiens, rather than nations or religions or mythologies. Okay? And love. You believe in being kind and compassionate to everyone you meet. Great. But are we really living that? Because I thought I lived those values, but I was not. So what I want to share with you is how I shifted from doing to being. And being meant that everything else in my life had to become secondary to these values. That is when you're really living your value. Now, this is what happened when I made that shift. The first thing that happened is between 2016 and 2019, the company that was stagnating and going through these ridiculous dips, all of a sudden started exploding, like 50% year on year. I couldn't even explain it. We just seemed blessed to get the right people, to get the right opportunities. And then the energy of the company changed. We started becoming, before that, Mind Valley would publish products because it felt that, this is a good market fit. Now we publish products that we really care about. We do our own products. We are friends with our teachers. There was a picture taken at AFES 1 year ago. And, what's really cool about it is that the people who come, the teachers who come to A-Fest, become part of a tribe. Jay Shetty, who was in that picture, said, you speak once on a Mind Valley stage, and you are friends with them for life. It was incredible how the whole nature of what we were doing shifted. But one of the most curious things is that my physical body shifted. I'm going to show you two pictures. One was an actual profile photo of me taken by the same photographers here, but taken at A-Fest 2016 in Greece. And the second picture was taken 2 years later, okay? And the picture on the first picture is actually me. In the second picture, my body had completely changed. I had gone from maybe 22% body fat to 14% body fat. I had astigmatism in my left eye. My astigmatism disappeared. I couldn't understand that my health was actually changing. Now I know why it was going on, and I'm going to show you. But when you practice these ideas, your become part of a tribe. Jay Shetty, who was in that picture, said, you speak once on a Mind Valley stage, and you are friends with them for life. It was incredible how the whole nature of what we were doing shifted. But one of the most curious things is that my physical body shifted. I'm going to show you two pictures. One was an actual profile photo of me taken by the same photographers here, but taken at A-Fest 2016 in Greece. And the second picture was taken 2 years later, okay? And the picture on the first picture is actually me. In the second picture, my body had completely changed. I had gone from maybe 22% body fat to 14% body fat. I had astigmatism in my left eye. My astigmatism disappeared. I couldn't understand that my health was actually changing. Now I know why it was going on, and I'm going to show you. But when you practice these ideas, your physical appearance will change. Your physical body will change. You can reverse aging. And it was incredible. Not only did the outside world change, but the inner world did. Michael Beckwith mentioned something really interesting. I was interviewing him just before he got on stage, and he said a lot of people misunderstand this concept called the law of attraction. They think it's about, thinking the thoughts that you want, the love, the car, the money, and attracting that to you. He says that's a kindergarten level of understanding. It's useful to some people, but the real law of attraction is really about resonance. You evolve yourself. And as you evolve yourself, whatever resonates with that new you comes to you. But ultimately, it's not about acquiring things. It's about becoming the best and grandest and greatest version of yourself. Does anyone relate? So let's do this. If I say something and you agree, and you feel that, you agree at an inner level, just snap your fingers. We're not going to be talking about science here. We're going to be talking about philosophy. The funny thing about philosophy is I can't back this up with data or evidence, but we can understand how true it feels by listening to the snapping sound of people who agree. Do you agree? Awesome. One more thing that happened. Ease. It almost seemed as if life became magical. There were magical moments and coincidences and synchronicities. In short, I was in flow. And all of these changes happened when I started living from these 4 values and made them the core of who I was. And all of that shit that was happening from 2013 to 2016 disappeared. I no longer had to be a cockroach. So, I want to share the 4 values and how to implement them in your life. Now, you don't have to take all 4. You could take 1 or 2 or 3. You might develop your own value. But the important here is the philosophical understanding and then the application. If you don't apply, then the understanding is nothing more than fuzz at the back of your mind. Now, the first value actually came from Rao himself. Rao was speaking at Mind Valley Live in Los Angeles. And after he got off stage, he came and approached me and he said, Vishen, we got to take these ideas bigger. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I teach at the best MBA schools in America, and I can tell you that they are teaching the wrong thing. So I'm like, do tell. He says, they teach you that your life is about your career and your money, and that's wrong. So I'm like, what should they teach? And he goes, what they should teach is this. I now call this rule number 1. And it says, your work is not about your work. Rather, your work is nothing more than the greatest vehicle for your personal evolution. He said, personal growth, perpetual growth, should be your ultimate identity. And you must put your personal growth before everything else. Now, this part may get a little bit